Hello my dear listener and welcome to our channel. Hello, my name is Dave, and rather than physically describe myself, I thought I would detail what I believe in. That way you should get an idea of what sort of guy I am. Despite what I've just done, I assure you I'm not an evil man. An evil man would have enjoyed what I just did. I didn't. It was just something my sensibilities demanded. My driving belief is in respect. Respecting yourself and others is critical. I will respect you until you do something to lose it, at which point I will just walk away. I will never darken your doorway again. I think everyone has a duty to be as good as they can possibly be. Sure, some will achieve more than others, but as long as you try your best, I will respect you. One word of caution: disrespect me and you'd better be very careful. What I value most is loyalty and trust. I will never lie or be devious to those that have my respect. I am loyal to a fault, again to those who deserve it. Note the careful wording: if you lose my trust, then loyalty and respect are also off the table. I have a strong belief in justice. Good things should happen to good people and bad things to bad people. I'm also old-fashioned. If you wrong me, then you won't have to worry about lawsuits, but you'd better be very careful walking down any dark alleys. If I shake hands on a deal and it doesn't happen, then check the death notices, my name will be there. I believe I am methodical, romantic and loving. I also have a strong belief in equality of the sexes, not just lip service, but an innate conviction that whatever your gender, it won't make a difference in what I expect or how I will treat you. That may explain why I did what I did. Did I say I was methodical? I'll prove it to you by starting at the beginning. My suggestion that my wife of several years sever contact with her friend, Jenny, fell on deaf ears. Jenny moved down the street the previous year. Her husband, Bill, is a shift worker whom I've only met a couple of times. Jenny makes me uncomfortable. I don't know what it is about her, but I just have a real instinctive bad feeling. However, I respect that it's my wife Lorna's decision. She tends not to have many friends but is fiercely loyal to the ones she does have. Jenny doesn't like me, and it's obvious that she's trying to influence Lorna. More than once when I walked into the room, their conversation would stop abruptly. I started to have a bad feeling about their friendship. Signs that my marriage was in trouble began accumulating. Several small things, by themselves insignificant, started to bother me. Not being able to contact Lorna sometimes on her days off and receiving evasive answers when I asked about it later was one of them. Her recent difficulty in making eye contact with me was another. I believe the eyes are the windows of the soul, and added my own observation that sunglasses are the blinds. The biggest clue was our intimacy declining from at least twice a week to nothing overnight. Doubly strange was that on more than one occasion when I approached her for intimacy, she seemed to go along with it for a while, and then changed her mind. It was like shutters came down over her eyes and she turned off. I asked many times what the problem was, but she denied there was one. Exasperated, last week I suggested we should consider counseling. Lorna just turned away and started crying. Once she finished, she looked like she wanted to say something, but then the shutters came down again. The most confusing aspect of her behavior was its total inconsistency with a woman trying to start a family. Unless a troubling thought entered my head: what if she had given up on me and was considering other options? It would explain why she wasn't as sexually frustrated as I was, and why she was avoiding me. But that doesn't make sense. We had only been trying for 2 months before she cut me off. Well, if she wasn't going to admit to her actions, then I was going to have to catch her the old-fashioned way. Lorna controlled the finances in our family, so I had to be careful and keep any surveillance discreet. I bought 2 small voice recorders that relayed to a base station. A good start, I thought. If they didn't pick up anything, I could always upgrade to GPS monitoring later. I set one of the recorders up in the kitchen to cover that room and the lounge, and placed the second one in our bedroom. The receiver I hid in the ceiling space. Lorna never went there as she was afraid of spiders. The only relevant conversation the recorders picked up about a week later was both confusing and somewhat relieving. It didn't sound like Lorna was being unfaithful, but I still had no clear idea of what she was up to. The recorded conversation happened in the kitchen on one of Lorna's days off. Well, Lorna, what did you think of that? I don't know, Jenny. It was quite intense, but are you sure Bill enjoys it? He doesn't necessarily enjoy it during the moment, but afterwards he knows he'll get a week of exceptional attention. The only time he was really upset was when I misjudged the timing and my period started that night. Bill missed out and was in a bad mood for a whole week. I still don't understand. I can't see how you could respect Bill if he puts up with all that. Oh, today was mild. You should see what we usually get up to. I didn't want to embarrass Bill too much today since it was only the second time you were there as a spectator. You wouldn't believe the rush I get when I go up to Bill, tied up, and offer him his choices for the day. What choices? It's different each time. I'll ask Bill if he wants to try something new next time you come over. I'd better go. Bill is still tied up. The bedroom recorder cut off, and shortly after, there was a distinctive buzzing noise and sounds indicating significant arousal. It was clear that Lorna had experienced something with Jenny and Bill that excited her, but I couldn't fully understand all of it. The only thing that fit the conversation was unsettling. The idea that a man would tolerate such a situation was surprising to me. I decided to wait and see what happened next. The following week, during Lorna's day off, the action was again in the kitchen. Yeah, well, I asked Bill if I could try the whole experience again, but he refused. He said it was only because he thinks he might get something in return that he agreed to have you there in the first place. Well, don't tell him that. If you burst that bubble, your viewing days are over. How was last week with Bill? Fantastic as always. After I returned home, I untied him, and he cleaned up as usual. We then spent the rest of the day together until supper. The experience was great, but the following week with Bill is almost as good. It's like a honeymoon period all over again. There was a pause in the conversation, and the sound of a cow boiling. So, how are things with Dave? The poor guy must be quite frustrated. It's been 6 weeks now, and it's getting harder to turn him down. If it were for some external help, I would have exploded by now. Vibrators can be satisfying, but they often leave you feeling a bit unfulfilled. Yes, I know. But hang in there. Maybe tell him you're cutting him off to build up his stamina. That might buy you some time. Another few weeks, and Dave will be more willing to agree to anything. How about next week you try to imagine Bill as Dave? It won't be the same, but at least you'll get some relief and buy yourself more time. No way, Jenny. I will never cheat on Dave. I love him too much to disrespect him like that. And there's the whole prenup issue I mentioned. If he ever found out, I'd be out in a flash. I'm 39, Jenny. If I don't have kids now, I never will. I paused the recording, feeling disheartened. The comments about respect were particularly troubling, as they seemed to reflect different values than mine. I returned to the recording. I still can't see Dave going along with this. I'm thinking of backing out. I can't risk losing him just for something temporary. It's hard enough dealing with the situation as it is. Haven't you listened to what I've said? It's not just about the affair, it's the thrill of control. Seeing him sit there, knowing he'll do anything to keep you. It's about dominance. Men may protest, but deep down they often want to be dominated. Bill did it and my ex did too. They might complain, but they end up returning every time. No, Jenny. I've decided I don't want to risk my future happiness. It's not worth it. Dave brought up counseling again this week. What risk, Lorna? There is no risk. Let him stew for a few more weeks to maximize your chances, then hit him with it. You're not cheating, so he has no reason to leave and the prenup isn't triggered. What's the worst that can happen? He says no and you've lost nothing. No way will he want a divorce where he loses the house, half the money, and has to pay you alimony. So there's no risk in exploring possibilities and you just can't lose. Okay, Jenny, I'll think about it. Well, make up your mind soon or your chances might disappear. The next day, after hearing Jenny's influence, I was feeling increasingly frustrated. I had to decide how I would handle the situation. Jenny seemed to be offering Lorna something that no one else could match, and while the idea was initially unsettling to me, I had to admit I hadn't fully considered the implications. When Lorna came to bed, I made my desire known but was met with a refusal. Lorna, have you ever heard of conjugal rights? No, what are they? They refer to a spouse's right to intimacy. Well, I'm claiming what I call anti-conjugal rights, the right to say no. I paused, choosing my words carefully. If you continue refusing me without explaining why and won't consider counseling, will you give me permission to seek my needs outside the marriage? There was an explosive reaction from Lorna. What? No way are you going to get anything outside of this house. I should be able to provide for you. Her statement suddenly seemed misguided, and pain, anger, and confusion crossed her face. She abruptly left the room. I have to talk to Jenny, she said. I left her alone to go into the living area, and heard mumbling from the kitchen phone area. She returned half an hour later, gently easing into bed beside me. I gave her a few minutes before speaking. Lorna, I don't know what Jenny is telling you, but can't you see how destructive it is? She's my friend. Well, I strongly recommend distancing yourself from her before she causes more damage to our marriage. It's clear that her influence isn't beneficial. The next morning after Lorna left for work, I went to the ceiling space to retrieve the recorder. It had captured the late-night phone call, or at least one side of it. Lorna was explaining her conversation with me, sounding desperate. Jenny, are you sure about what you said? Are all men like Bill, and if pushed hard enough will they accept being controlled? Well, as you said, I really have nothing to lose, and even witnessing what you and Bill do is exciting. Yes, I'll do it, but I can't keep this up for long. Can we move the timetable up a bit? Alright, I'll come over tomorrow night and we'll discuss the details. Bye. The following day after dinner, Lorna told me she was going to Jenny's. Are you going to end things with her like I suggested? No, Dave. I grabbed her and forced eye contact. Please, Lorna. Without another word, she left. I went to Jenny's house, noting the powerful influence of lust. As it was dark, I couldn't find a vantage point to see or hear what was happening inside. I would be flying blind for the next stage of the drama. The next day, I stayed in bed until Lorna left and then went to Jenny's house. Jenny opened the door in her dressing gown and wanted to get dressed, but I explained that my visit wouldn't take long. Jenny, I know you and Lorna are involved in something questionable. I guess you're trying to persuade her into actions she doesn't really want to take. I should let you know that I don't easily forgive and forget. For your own safety, I suggest you use your persuasive skills to talk her out of this rather than into it. The door was slammed in my face. After another quiet dinner, Lorna went to Jenny's house again. This time, I noticed the kitchen light was on and the window slightly ajar. I'd missed the start of the conversation, so I wasn't sure of the explanation for my visit that morning. I arrived just in time to hear Lorna say, "No, this is good news, Lorna. I reckon this proves he thinks I'm trying to get you to cheat on him. That means when you hit him with your speech he'll be off balance, and what's more, he'll be so relieved that you aren't going to cheat on him that he'll jump at our suggestion." At that point, I clumsily knocked over a small pot plant and, to avoid answering some awkward questions, made a quick exit. I was asleep when Lorna came home the next night, and when I got home, I was greeted by wonderful culinary smells. Lorna had gone all out on taste and presentation. She kept up with the name shatter all night, and the few times she made eye contact, all I could see was nervousness. I waited for her to get it off her chest. When bedtime came, there was no confrontation. To apply a little pressure, I snuggled into her and touched her in a way I hoped would prompt a conversation. She actually responded for a short while before shutting me down. I asked, "Have I done something wrong, dear?" "Tell me," and suggested Lorna, "I really think we should consider counseling again." I only received the expected angry responses. The next morning I decided to try a different approach. I retrieved her vibrator from the bathroom drawer and removed the spring from the battery compartment. I was hoping to shift the dynamics. After a few more evenings of the same routine, the situation started to feel repetitive. When I returned from golf, Jenny was there but quickly left. It was Saturday night, and using the excuse of getting up early for church, I retired to bed by 9:30 p.m. Lorna followed me. I thought she might be more open in the darkness, so I turned off the light. Once she was settled, I asked, "Okay, Lorna, what's on your mind?" She was silent, so I continued, "I'm guessing you have something on your mind that you can't quite bring yourself to tell me. You've cut me off from intimacy for the best part of 2 months, so I'm guessing it is related. Lorna, are you cheating on me, and are you working up the courage to confess?" I asked. "No, Dave, how could you possibly think that? You know I love you and would never do anything like that," she erupted. "Then please tell me what it is before I just leave, or even worse," I continued, "the next time someone shows interest in me." This got her attention. "What women show interest in you?" she asked. Well, at work I'm well off, fit, and if I may say so, not bad looking. I doubt a week goes by without some girl trying to make a move on me, I replied. Okay, Dave, just give me a minute, and I'll tell you what's on my mind, she said. It took more like 5 minutes. Like I said, Dave, I have never cheated on you and would never want to, but there is something I would like to try. I waited as she continued. I know you don't like her, but Jenny has been talking about what she and Bill do in the bedroom, and it sounds a lot more exciting than what we do. Hang on, you've never complained about what we've had over the last 8 years. Yes, I know, Dave, you're a wonderful and considerate partner, and I was totally satisfied with what we had. But Jenny described her experiences as being much better than ours. I'd just like to ask if we can give it a try. Not forever, just once or twice before we settle into being responsible parents. Are you sure it's as good as Jenny describes, or is she exaggerating? I asked. No, she said. When I heard her describe it, it was clear by her excitement that she truly enjoys it. So, with dread, I have to ask, I said, what do you and Jenny have in mind for me? Well, it's nothing too drastic, Dave, she said. Jenny has told me about how she has experiences with other men in front of Bill. It's not about love, just physical activity. It's not cheating since Bill is aware of it. Jenny suggested something similar for us. It's a bit unconventional. It involves letting someone else be with me while you watch, and then afterwards you and I would be together. Jenny believes that it's important to do it in our bed, as it would show that you are giving me as a gift to another man while also receiving the gift of another man. She says the best part is afterward when you and I reconnect. Jenny also suggested that if you feel uncomfortable watching, you could leave for the night while I stay here. However, Jenny thinks that staying will help you see that it's just a physical experience, while leaving might make you worry about comparisons or emotional connections. After a long explanation, Lorna fell silent. I said, don't worry, Lorna. If we do this, and it's a big if, I will be there. But one question: you've explained how I show my love for you by allowing this, but how do you show your love for me? Every time, silly. Every time I come back to you, I'm showing you that you are my main man, my one and only love. Love by sloppy seconds, huh? Sorry, Dave, I don't understand what you mean. Don't worry about it, dear. I've got to say my first impression isn't good. If we're obviously so incompatible and I don't satisfy you enough, why don't we just try an open marriage or bringing another person into bed and we can both enjoy them? No, Dave. The thought of you with someone else makes me uncomfortable. It just doesn't feel right. It's not going to happen. Okay, we bring in another person, but I promise not to touch them. I'll just watch. Yuck, Dave. I tried that once in college and that was enough for this lifetime. Have you thought of all the possible ramifications of this, Lorna? There's me losing respect for you, you losing respect for me, or me feeling inadequate when I see you with someone who is a better lover or has more to offer. No one could be a better lover than you, Dave. Anyway, Jenny went through all the possible outcomes and reckoned we have nothing to lose. Screw Jenny, Lorna. Have you really thought about all the possible consequences? Yes, Dave, I have, and I really want to try it. Can we? At this point, Lorna reached out, and despite my initial reluctance, I found myself responding. Please, Dave, just think about it a little more. Okay, Lorna, there's no harm in thinking about it, I suppose. Now can we make love? No, Dave, I don't think so. Why not? Just think of it as an incentive to think quicker. You do realize that's emotional blackmail, don't you, dear? Well, I don't agree. I just think we should get this out of my system quickly and get on with making babies. That week, I noticed an addition to Lorna's collection, a new device. Shame on you, Lorna, you forgot to mention that part. Well, I lasted another 11 days. It was a Wednesday night and we were in bed again. Okay, Lorna, you win. We'll do it your way, but don't blame me if things go badly. I urge you again to consider all the possible consequences. Really? Thanks, Dave. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful experience for both of us. Can we do the first one on Friday? Sure, dear, on one condition. You do your duty and get me into the mattress right now, without any preamble. Lorna complied, and after a couple of movements she stopped. There are a couple of things I forgot to mention. Jenny says that while you're watching, it's better if you're tied to a chair. She says it makes the guy feel more comfortable and gives me a feeling of power and control. Also, Jenny says it's good if we call you names and things like that. I'm not sure why, but Jenny says it really pushes her over the edge. I stare at Lorna incredulously. Don't you want this to be perfect, Dave? Lorna resumed, and I struggled to keep my composure. Lorna, can we ease into this, please? I really don't want to relinquish all my control for our first experience. I'm not comfortable with being tied up, although I'm happy to sit in a chair and pretend my hands are tied. I'd even like to use a video camera to record it. What video camera? You mentioned we might only do this once, so I thought I could capture it to relive the experience. I'll ask Jenny if that's okay. No, Lorna, don't ask Jenny. It's time you made your own decisions and took responsibility. Okay, Dave. We won't tie you up, and it would be great to have a video record of the first time you proved your love this way. One more thing, Lorna. I'm not comfortable with the idea of trash talk. I'd prefer if you pretend I'm not there. Talk amongst yourselves. Call me names if you like, but as if I'm not present. It would be too humiliating if I felt you were actually addressing me. I doubt I could feel more humiliated. Lorna, I doubt I could feel more humiliated if you offered your lover something incredibly personal. No, Dave. No one has been involved at this stage. Even my strength was tested to stop Lorna from continuing. I didn't feel particularly proud of my stamina that first time, but there were extenuating circumstances, 2 months of being restrained. In my defense, Lorna did reach satisfaction before I did. The following night when I returned home, Jenny was there, looking proud as ever. Well done, Dave. You won't regret this. It's the start of a new life for you both. I pretended not to notice the sharp look Lorna gave her. Jenny had promoted this as a short-term arrangement, so I asked, Jenny, where do we go from here? What I usually do is go to a different part of town where I'm not recognized. I approach random people, explain what I'm looking for, and if they agree, I take them somewhere private to assess the situation. I can't agree to that. If Lorna were to engage with someone else, I'd consider it cheating. Why not just bring home the first person who agrees? Okay, Dave, you're in charge for now. We'll follow your approach. Good night. Once Jenny left, Lorna seemed to have more on her mind. What's wrong, Lorna? Well, Jenny didn't want to ask, but she wondered if it would be okay if she came over and observed. No, Lorna. It's already humiliating enough having me present while you're with someone else. I don't want a witness there. We can show her the video later if needed. Sorry, Han. I know she's put a lot of work into this, but I just couldn't stand it. Now, how about we go upstairs and get some practice? Lorna agreed, and as we were undressing, I remembered a question I'd been considering. Honey, are you going to buy more condoms or should I? Jenny says we can't use condoms. What? You went off the pill 4 months ago. Yes, but my fertile period isn't for another 2 weeks. Jenny says it's more enjoyable if you can see me without protection. She believes it makes men want to act quickly, and often to ensure their contribution is dominant. I was worried about diseases, but we can get tested regularly if needed. I agree. We shouldn't risk it. Now about that practice we came upstairs for. I'm not in the mood anymore. All right. I give in. No rubbers. Thanks, honey. Lorna took the Friday off work and was very excited. By the time I got home, the house was spotless and the bedroom was prepared with extra pillows, dimmed lights and a spotlight. Lorna was practically hopping with excitement when Jenny arrived to take her out. I reminded them that, allowing for an hour's travel time, I expected them back in 90 minutes. They returned just a bit later with Jeremy, a good-looking man about 10 years younger than Lorna. I had spent the waiting time checking the clock and preparing for the evening. When introduced, Jeremy appeared a bit nervous, but relaxed when I explained I was supportive of the situation and eager to see Lorna's fantasy fulfilled. I clarified the rules and assured him I would be no threat, even though I was only pretending to be tied to a chair. I also asked them to speak as if I wasn't there, which Jeremy agreed to. When I turned on the video camera, he asked if he could get a copy of the footage. Throughout all this, Lorna was visibly excited. After the preliminaries, I left and took my place in the bedroom. I took my seat, positioning the chair carefully with a good view of the bed. Unaware of the birdcage setup, I didn't think much of it. I undressed as I knew Lorna preferred, not wanting to interrupt the flow of the evening by having her ask me to. The chair was next to the door, offering a clear view of the bed. After setting up the camera on the arm of the chair, I placed my arms behind my back and waited, trying to suppress my excitement. I hoped that all the anticipation of the last 2 weeks would be fulfilled soon. Within a minute, Jeremy and Lorna entered, eagerly undressing each other. I noted with some relief that Jeremy seemed smaller than me. Lorna's disappointment was visible when she saw this. Once Jeremy was naked, he guided Lorna to her knees with a roughness that suggested he was experienced. He then shifted her onto her back on the bed and climbed on top of her. Lorna's look of disappointment returned when she realized he was skipping foreplay, which she particularly enjoyed. Jeremy wasted no time and quickly reached climax. He managed to say some of the expected lines, but there wasn't much time. With a few final grunts, he finished and rolled off her. Despite her disappointment, Lorna quickly rallied. She glanced in my direction several times, focusing on the camera pointed at her. I wondered if her performance was influenced by me or the camera. In a voice thick with emotion, she mentioned that this experience was thanks to me, almost as if to emphasize the humiliation. Lorna tried to resist, but eventually gave in to his forceful actions. As I watched from outside the bedroom door, I struggled to block out her pain and wished for the ordeal to end. I dressed quickly in my work suit and re-entered the room, just as Jeremy was reaching his second climax. I rushed back into the room and hurried to her side of the bed just as Jeremy was finishing up. With a dramatic shout I yelled, "Lorna, what is going on here? Who is this? Get out of my house." The scene that followed, as captured in the video, was almost comical. Jeremy's expression shifted rapidly from bliss to confusion, then to fear. He quickly gathered his clothes and made a hasty exit from the room, nearly breaking the sound barrier as he left. Lorna's brief relief soon turned to confusion. Torn between dealing with Jeremy and confronting Lorna, I decided to follow Jeremy. Before I left, I glared at Lorna and said,